Hi, and welcome to At the Movies with Dante and Louis. I'm Louis Jacobs.
And I'm Dante Louis.
Thanks for joining us today. And we're going to be talking about a new Netflix release called The Woman in the Window. This was directed by Joe Wright. And we're going to break that down a little bit.
IMDb synopsis is: an agoraphobic woman living alone in New York begins spying on her new neighbors, only to witness a disturbing act of violence.
Right. Or as Gary Oldman calls her in the movie, she's nothing but a drunken, shut-in, pill-popping cat lady.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think that's kind of where we start. It's very sad when you think about it. The reality, the picture that the film begins to paint with her being in that situation. Frankly, if I were the cat in the movie, I would have said, why did you put me in this damn movie? I could have been doing a Friskies commercial. But anyway, so talk about the plot. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, well, I mean, Joe Wright as the director. When I heard that name, I was like, that's interesting, because he's other movies. He did the box office bomb, Pan, the Peter Pan movie with
right.
Hugh Jackman.
Right.
And then he had Pride and Prejudice was his first movie in 2005. He did Atonement. He did The Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman,
right.
The Winston Churchill movie.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay. I don't know if I'm that interested, because he's not a director that I really love.
Yeah. And then in terms of the plot, are we moving to plot?
Yeah. So for me, I found this movie kind of reminded me of a bunch of movies that I just watched. A lot of movies about people locked in one location.
Right.
So I thought what we could do was we could play a guessing game where I would do a impression of an actor from a movie and do some lines from that movie and see if you could guess who I am.
Dante's an actor now. Is you think what's happening here? Okay, go ahead, shoot.
All right. I practiced this a couple of times, so hopefully it comes off. I've seen bickering and family quarrels and mysterious trips at night and knives and ropes. And now, since last night, not a single sign of the wife. Now you tell me where she is.
Nice job. It's got to be Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Movie?
Rear Window.
Yes.
Well, yes. We've seen this, and Rear Window, the witness to a murder, and it's not that she's just locked away. You know, she's an agoraphobic. You know, she can't leave the house. So, just like the pandemic, and that's what some of the reviews that I was glancing at, we're talking about how this is kind of perfect for a pandemic audience, because we get to watch someone who's locked in the house and she can't get out. But she's actually got issues, which I'm not going to talk about, but we find out why for 10 months she's been popping pills, drinking wine, and not going out of her house.
Yes.
So yeah. Did you feel like you would rather watch Rear Window than watch this one?
Kind of. I mean, that's a classic. You have Jimmy Stewart, great. Alfred Hitchcock directing.
Ray Romano, yeah.
I just found that movie more interesting. There's also the movie Copycat with Sigourney Weaver, where she plays an agoraphobic, and there's stuff with serial killers involved in that, and that's a little more exciting. For this movie, what got my interest wasn't so much the story, because I was like, it's kind of been done to death. What got me interested was the cast, all these amazing actors,
Leading the pack is Amy Adams, is as this woman who Anna Fox, Dr. Anna Fox, for some reason she owns a brownstone, and she has a tenant downstairs who lives in the basement. Amy Adams, of course, most recently from Hillbilly Elegy, which got mixed reviews. Junebug was her breakout role. She was fantastic. I like her when she's likable. Enchanted, I love Enchanted. Doubt, opposite Meryl Streep, she's great in that too. She in this film, of course, she's downtrodden and wearing a robe, and she couldn't be any more frazzled and puffy and sort of at a dark place in her life. So I understand why they put her in that.
Yeah. I enjoy her. I saw her first in the movie Drop Dead Gorgeous. Recently, she's been playing Lois Lane in the DC comic movies.
I think she turns in a pretty good performance. I don't know that she has the perfect script in which to do that, but up until a certain point, she turns in a good performance. Next, we have, Julianne Moore making an appearance. Julianne Moore, I love her from Boogie Nights and Far From Heaven, Magnolia. What did you think of her little shtick?
Her tiny role, I really enjoyed like the amount of screen time that she got. I thought I really enjoyed that character that she was playing. I'm a big fan of hers. She had the task of taking over the role of Clarice Starling from Jodie Foster, which I thought she did pretty well. And yeah, I really enjoyed her in this movie.
I think I find her interesting when she's a little messed up. And in this film, she is just messy. You don't know how messy until later you find out, kind of. So yeah, she does a great job. I was going to mention Game Change. She is in the film Game Change as Sarah Palin, and she is just, who can't do a Sarah Palin impersonation? But she just brings so much to playing Sarah Palin. Tracy Letts is the screenwriter for this film, The Woman in the Window, and he plays the psychiatrist. He's kind of like maybe that person that you don't remember so much of the time, but he's an amazing screenwriter and playwright. He wrote an amazing play called Bug, which I saw in Los Angeles. That was made into a film. Also, August Osage County, amazing Pulitzer Prize winning play, and that, of course, was made into a film. So he wrote the thing. This isn't his strongest, and I think they had issues with the script.
Yeah. I think when you're working with like the book might not have been all that great to begin with. So, you can get the best writers ever, but you can't really do anything with bad material,
You kind of want to say, just read the book, maybe, or don't even read the book.
Yeah.
What'd you think of, Jennifer Jason Leigh popping in?
Oh my God. Well, like I said, the reason why I wanted to watch this movie was because all this great cast, and I cannot believe Jennifer Jason Leigh took this role. Like, why would they cast her?
I think it's because we as the audience need to, at that moment when we first see Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I did a double take. I was like, girl, what are you doing in this movie? But I think it's because we have to look at that character and see what people are talking about. So I guess if it were somebody who wasn't as well known. Another point, why is this character, this wife character named Jane Russell? That bothers me. I know it doesn't bother you as much because you're younger and you don't know who Jane Russell was, but just to have a character where everybody's talking about Jane Russell really annoyed me.
And they say that name like a couple of times too. So
400 times, Jane Russell. I'm like, for God's sakes. So there's
so weird. I have an expectation of like Jennifer Jason Leigh in a movie because I know her from like Single White Female. That's like one of my favorite movies of hers, where she can play like crazy and over the top.
Amazing.
Yeah, and even in movies that I didn't really love, like The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino's
Yes.
Western, I thought she brought a lot to that role, and she kind of made that movie like I kind of want to go back to watch for her performance.
Yeah.
But in
Amazing.
this, they just like waste her. She's
You
in like
should
two
see her.
scenes.
Watch her in Shortcuts. Robert Altman's Shortcuts. She's an amazing. Turns in an amazing performance. Last Exit to Brooklyn. Also,
What did you think of Gary Oldman?
I thought he was great. I thought he was ferocious. You didn't quite know if he was just upset or if there was truth to the accusations, or he rode that line, that fine line of he's gonna turn in a strong performance.
Yeah.
So I think they needed someone that was a little frightening for that role, so that we believed in the possibility of. So the interesting cast of characters.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell plays her tenant.
Yeah.
I thought he gave a pretty good performance. He was in it like more.
Why would you have him living downstairs? He seemed to be in a bad mood all the time.
This movie's kind of like a whodunit, like who might have committed the crime.
Right.
And he kind of sells that, like you're not sure if he's a good guy or bad.
He does add that element because he's so miserable that you think, well, he's probably a killer, for God's sakes. Yeah. So what? Talk to me about scenes. Did you have a scene that sold you on the film, or a scene that didn't sell you on the film and made you go, for God's sakes?
I think for me, there was like a bunch of scenes that worked for me, but it was mostly because of the cinematography in the scenes. I thought like the movie looks beautiful and has a lot of these like really interesting shots that like kind of make it more exciting because it's a person stuck in a house, but what they do with the camera work, I thought was really great. But one of my favorite scenes was there's a point in the movie where she gets an email from somebody.
Yes.
And she's about to open up the image that's on the email, but she puts it down and she goes to go and pick up her cat. And how that shot is framed with the picture slowly opening, downloading, and then you see her in the background. I like that. That was
gorgeous shot.
Scenes. Yeah. What was one of your favorite scenes?
I didn't have any. I didn't have any favorite scenes. I did have one scene, which is where all of them are confronting the Anna Fox character, and it goes into her head, which I think is way more interesting if the movie were this sort of movie in the first place, with all of the tragedies that have happened in her life. And then the scene where the whole cast of characters is there saying, actually, no, Dr. Fox, this is the situation. But it becomes interesting because then you're like, okay, well, what is going on with this woman who has just been in a dowdy bathrobe for 4 hours, just going through this huge brownstone with jewel tone sheer curtains, different color in every window because it's all about the windows. So I liked that this was this real situation where they were all on her, like, we have to really straighten what's going on in your brain, straighten it out.
Yeah, I mean, because there's like a bunch of like mysteries in the movie. There's like, why is Amy Adams' character like in this situation? Why is she stuck in her house? There's and like who killed this Jane Russell, if she is even really dead. There's like a bunch of mysteries.
Jane Russell's been dead for years. No, but yes, questions.
So none of that really worked for you?
It kind of did up until the end, and then that whole extravaganza in the rain on the roof, I was like, well, because we know who the person is, and I won't say, but I was so upset that was the person. And then I was upset that it had to take us up on the roof in the rain.
Yeah, I found the tone of the movie like completely changed in that last moment. It felt like a slasher film, you know, like it was like that.
And which wasn't half as interesting, right? As this sort of psychological confusion.
It was weird. It was like a different director took over the last the last scene of the movie, even with like the garden.
Yeah. Cool.
What happens with that? I was like, whoa.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the ending to me, just that's when I fell off my couch and almost jumped out a window, and I just was like,
well, because these movies like kind of hinge on the twist, the reveal. You know, I think of like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That was another book. Gone Girl, another book. They've been trying to like recapture what those movies did with like movies like The Girl on the Train.
Sure.
That just did not work, and I think they tried to do that with this book, and I just think the source material just wasn't that strong.
Probably right.
The story behind the book is written by A.J. Finn, which is the pseudonym for Daniel Mallory. And when I did research on this guy, I found like there's a New Yorker, I think the New Yorker article on this writer just talking about how he like made up all these stories about himself, that he suffered from cancer, and that he had a brain tumor, and that his mother died of cancer, and apparently like none of that happened. You know, the
author of the source material for this movie is what you're saying is a big lie box.
Yeah. So he's a little controversial writer. So would you recommend it?
No. I think that you know, this whole category of recommending and not recommending is so, obviously it's subjective, it's our opinion, you know. Watch a movie if you want, and don't, who cares? But in terms of, like you said, for our last review, our last conversation, when you can watch a better version that's done before, where maybe people are a little bit more interesting and cinematically, although this was shot gorgeously, you know. So for this one, I would say no. I mean, you know, if those are my options, I'd go no.
You'd go no.
How about yourself?
I think there's worse things out there to watch. Like one of our upcoming reviews wasn't. I never want to watch that movie again. This one was interesting. It didn't drag. There was some beautiful cinematography. I thought the score actually by Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
I was surprised it was him, because it didn't sound like his work with Tim Burton, but I found it was really good. Right. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but see, I don't know. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I would say if you got nothing else to watch it. So I would give it a slight recommendation for that.
Slight recommendation. It's not too long, but I would recommend watching Rear Window instead. That is like, you know, that's the original one of these type of movies, you know, where somebody's trapped in their house, or that one. Watch that one. Last year I watched a movie called The Wolf Hour with Naomi Watts, and that has to do with an agoraphobic person, taking place during the Summer of Sam in New York City. So it has that story and her, and it's a really good movie. It's more of an indie film, but she gives a great performance in that. Yeah. So interesting how we're sort of recommend, and I'm saying no. My first no. God bless America. All right. Well, on that note, thank you, Dante, for your expertise, and thank you at home for watching. This is At the Movies with Dante and Louis, and we'll see you next time.
Bye now.